This is you. You are lying prone on a rain-lashed rooftop, the oppressive weight of the city pressing down on your spine like a physical burden. The cold, hard concrete saps the warmth from your bones, but you do not shiver. Your hands, encased in wet, fingerless leather gloves, are rock steady. You are a living statue, purposefully exploiting the freeze response, slowing your heart rate until you feel comfortably numb to the freezing downpour. Through the high-magnification optic of your rifle, you watch the relentless rain slicing through the flickering neon glow of the street below, creating a surreal, watery mirage. A suffocating silence blankets the roof, broken only by the rhythmic pitter-patter of the storm hitting the asphalt. You have the crosshairs locked on the chest of a terrified man stumbling out of a cab in the deserted alleyway. But you are not here to pull the trigger on him. You adjust your windage dial, your eyes scanning the dark, angular windows across the street, hunting for a telltale glass glint or a faint thermal bloom. Your heart gives a dull thud against your ribs. You are the sniper hired to protect the target you were originally supposed to kill. Let us rewind the clock and find out what shattered your reality. Before the shadows claimed your soul, you were a top-tier professional, a brilliant corporate security architect living a life of pristine, sunlit success. You had a fiercely loving husband and a bright-eyed young daughter who was the center of your universe. But tragedy strikes without warning, and the universe is a morally ambiguous void. You uncovered a catastrophic secret hidden deep within your firm's encrypted servers, a massive, systemic pharmaceutical cover-up regarding illegal drug testing that traded human lives for skyrocketing profit margins. Systemic corruption and unyielding corporate greed demanded your absolute silence. When you prepared to blow the whistle to the press, the unforgiving system bled your family dry. They froze your bank accounts. They fabricated criminal evidence to destroy your reputation. Then they orchestrated a devastating, violent car accident on a slick highway. Your husband was killed instantly, his body horribly crushed in the mangled steel wreckage. Your daughter barely survived, left in a coma tethered to expensive life support machines you could no longer afford. Stripped of everything, your assets erased, and your pristine life ruined. Your world was utterly destroyed. Penniless, hunted, and desperate, you were forced into the darkest, most punishing underbelly of society to survive. You descended into a rotting, abandoned industrial slaughterhouse on the bleak edge of the city limits, a place where humans crossed the line into monsters. It was a true hell on earth, a visual horror of blood-soaked concrete, rusted iron hooks, and peeling paint. The atmosphere was thick with the pungent tang of decaying air, the sickening smell of excrement, and the sweetish odor of old, coagulated death. Here, in the labyrinthine alleyways of urban decay, you realize the golden rule of this ruthless world. To survive the concrete jungle, you must become much more ruthless and evil than the monsters who destroyed your life. You buried your grief beneath a layer of impenetrable ice. You adopted a new, ruthless persona. You became a ghost in the urban maze, a predator lurking in the shadows, trading your moral compass for tactical stillness and a jaded, cynical perspective. You ceased to be a mother and a wife. You became a weapon. To pay the exorbitant medical tolls keeping your daughter breathing, you needed to secure the highest-paying contracts available in the criminal underworld. You sought out the director, a dark authority figure who ruled the city's criminal syndicate with an iron fist and a sadistic grin. But entry into his elite empire demanded proof of your savagery. He threw you into a high-stakes, violent situation, a brutal gang initiation locked inside the claustrophobic lightless bowels of the abattoir. 3 hardened, heavily armed killers were ordered to break you. They cornered you in the darkness. You tapped into a dark rage, a black fire of pure, uncontrollable hatred born from your unimaginable loss. You moved with visceral speed. A sudden whack of a steel pipe against your ribs brought a bone-crushing agony that threatened to white out your rational thought, sending you reeling. But you gritted your teeth and breathed through the tearing pain. You countered the assault. Your hands drove a crude, rusted blade into flesh with a sickening squelch. Hot blood splattered across your face, tasting of metallic iron. You survive the sacred, bloody trial, standing over their broken bodies, proving your lethal worth to the director as a cold, calculating asset. You are forced deeper into the darkness. Over the grueling years, you become a vital tool for the criminal syndicate, their apex predator, and eventually a feared leader. You constantly gaslight yourself, whispering into the mirror that the monstrous acts are justified, that the blood staining your hands is merely the price of your daughter's ongoing life. You learn the cold mathematical fatalism of the sniper. You calculate the ballistic coefficient, the muzzle velocity, the transonic turbulence, and the Coriolis effect for every long-range assassination, reducing human lives to the indifferent physics of external ballistics. The supersonic crack of your rifle and the heavy thump of the muzzle blast become the only soundtrack you know. You become entirely numb to the violence you inflict to survive, viewing the world exclusively through a telescopic scope that detaches you from the visceral reality of killing. When a terrified associate asks what you feel when you pull the trigger and end a life, you honestly, coldly answer, recoil. Your humanity is slowly bleeding out, leaving behind a hollow shell that serves a corrupt empire without hesitation or remorse. Then comes the ultimate contract, the mission that will shatter the fragile illusion of your life. The director orders you to eliminate a high-profile target, a rogue whistleblower who is about to expose a sprawling web of political and corporate conspiracies to the federal authorities. You track the target to a deserted, rain-swept plaza. You dial your elevation turrets, meticulously accounting for the bullet drop and the aggressive crosswind. But as you peer through your scope, your breath catches. You see the encrypted physical files the target is desperately clutching. You recognize the corporate logo and the data structure. It is the exact evidence of the pharmaceutical cover-up that destroyed your family so many years ago. It holds the key to your exoneration, the truth about your husband's death, and the total destruction of the director's empire. Suddenly, you spot aggressive movement in your peripheral vision. The director, paranoid and not trusting you to finish the job cleanly, has sent a heavily armed backup hit squad to ensure the whistleblower is silenced forever. A massive, life-or-death confrontation unfolds in fractions of a second. You are backed into a corner where you must choose between your remaining shred of humanity and the dark empire you serve. You shift your crosshairs. You rebel. You squeeze the trigger, sending a high-velocity bullet tearing through the skull of the lead hitman with a wet splat. The plaza erupts into deafening chaos. You manipulate the Mach cone and your acoustic signatures, creating sheer panic as you systematically eliminate the syndicate's hitmen to protect the target you were supposed to kill. You fight like a demon, but in the furious exchange of automatic gunfire, a sharp, white-hot pain lances through your spine. You collapse against the concrete, screaming in agony as an obliterating, crippling pain crashes through your entire body, paralyzing your legs. The climax resolves, but with a devastating, inescapable cost. The syndicate hit squad is completely wiped out. The whistleblower escapes into the night with the files intact. In the aftermath, the damning evidence is published globally. The director is incarcerated for life, and your name is finally publicly cleared. A massive corporate settlement guarantees your daughter will have the best medical care for the rest of her life, securing her future. You achieved your ultimate goal of redemption, vengeance, and justice. But the bullet that struck your spine severed your cord completely. You ironically lose your physical abilities, forever confined to a wheelchair, your lethal skills and freedom permanently erased by the very violence you mastered. When you finally visit your daughter's hospital room, awake and recovering, she does not look at you with the love you sacrificed everything to preserve. She looks at your scarred, broken body with pure, paralyzing terror. She knows the monstrous acts you committed. She sees the ghost of the slaughterhouse and the blood of dozens reflecting in your dead, hollow eyes. You traded your soul to save her life, only to become a terrifying monster she cannot bear to love. As you sit alone in the suffocating silence of your sterile room, forever trapped in a broken body, you are forced to stare into the abyss and ask, if the universe is merely a void of moral ambiguity, are you the righteous player who finally won the game, or just another broken pawn that fate decided to stop moving.